Super excited that everybody's here. I feel like I've got some really big shoes to fill after that keynote presentation. That was awesome. Topic of conversation today is video marketing in a modern world. Before we dive in, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ben Sorensen. I'm the founder and the president of Ascent Digital. We're a full-service agency based in Durango, Colorado. I'm also a father. I've got 3 amazing kids. I'm an ultra runner. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have over 15 years of experience in the agency space, working with all sorts of businesses all over the country. Most recently, at Ascent Digital, one of the things that we have found has made us super successful has been the fact that we have an in-house video production department. And what we've done for the last several years is we have run thousands of campaigns for hundreds of businesses in dozens of industries all over the country. And we've paid very close attention to variables that have made campaigns successful and ones that were less successful. And without exception, the number one variable, the number one indicator that a campaign is going to be successful for us is if it includes video. And that applies to all campaigns for our SEO efforts, our targeted advertisement efforts, our content marketing efforts, whatever it might be. We have found that the biggest variable by far is if it includes video. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited to kind of dive in to how we've used video to complement our other campaigns. We're going to talk about how best practices of how to use video across the board for SEO, advertising, marketing, websites, landing pages, and hopefully you guys will leave here with some tips and tricks so that you can leverage the power of video. Obviously, video marketing is hugely important. It's becoming increasingly popular as a means of communication. As we've learned throughout this yesterday and today, consumer behavior is evolving incredibly fast. And so we're living in a day and age now where consumers want concise information, and they want it to be delivered in a very powerful way. And it's my belief that there's no better medium than video to relay information that your customers are going to actually engage with and is going to resonate with them. Because consumers prefer watching video over reading text-based content. And I've got some stats here in a minute about how powerful it is for retaining information for customers. But my favorite thing about video by far is that it evokes emotion. So I always say at the office that photos tell us what something is, video shows us how something feels. And it is such a powerful tool to connect human beings. One of the philosophies I have now is that as technology has evolved and consumer behavior has evolved, and we're living in this just bombardment world of content and messaging and advertising and all of those things, that people are desperate to feel something real and to feel something authentic. And what better way to do that than through video? So like I had mentioned, video is such a powerful way to convey information. And what we have found is that viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in video, compared to only 10% when reading it in text. So if it matters to you that your potential customers or clients actually retain the information that you're sharing with them, video is literally the only way to do so, or stand on stage and be nervous and talk to everybody about it too. But if you think about how drastic that is, 95% retaining information compared to 10% in text. And I want everybody to think about your own marketing efforts and your own platforms. Do you have a 95 to 10 ratio of video versus text on your website and your social content and things like that? So it's something to consider, that people are really giving us indicators that they want to consume information via video. The other thing that I think is very surprising and very telling as it relates to the power of video is going to make up almost 83% of all web traffic. So if you think about what a huge number that is of all of the traffic and all of the people using the internet, 83% of that is spent consuming video content. And there's obviously a ton of benefits to utilizing video and incorporating it into your marketing efforts. We have found that it is an amazing traffic driver. The more video content you create, the more traffic you'll draw to your website and boosting your SEO. We're going to talk specifically and kind of deep dive into how to use video specifically to help SEO later on in the presentation today too. It also, though, increases understanding of products and services. And remember that you're selling a lifestyle. You're not selling a product or a service. You're selling how it makes people feel. It's also a great lead generation tool. You can treat it like a communication channel, and it provides that vital, consistent messaging to your customers. We talked about the return on investment. Good video keeps visitors engaged and convinces them to consume your product. It's also probably the most powerful brand awareness tool. Video is so amazing for people to connect with it. It's so shareable type of content. And if one of your initiatives is to lift your brand awareness and to build some brand equity, video is a great way to do that as well. And it also builds trust and credibility. What I love about it is that you can paint a complete picture of your brand. You can tell meaningful stories. You can really add value and get a message across that you want to, which ultimately builds trust and credibility in your brand as well. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is how to utilize video in your customer's buying journey. And I know that I'm in a room full of very savvy marketers and brands. I'm sure there's some agencies in here and marketing professionals. And I know there's a lot of complexity when it comes to actually delivering on these campaigns and how we measure things and targeting and things like that. But for the sake of today's conversation, what I want us to do is really simplify it. And I want us to break it into three main variables: who, what, and where. So who are we talking to? What are we telling them? And on what platform? Who's our audience? What's our messaging? And what's our channel? The message that we're going to be delivering, the vehicle, is going to be video. So if we think about that, those variables of who, what, and where, it'll help us kind of wrap our head around how we can have different messaging for different people that are at different stages of their buying journey, which is what we're going to dive into now. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with a sales funnel, your standard sales funnel. At the top, branding and awareness, you're sparking interest, and through all of our effective campaigns that I know everybody in here runs, we're able to basically bring people through the sales funnel down into the interest and the research stage, consideration, intent, ultimately the conversion, which I know is what we're all working towards. And then I think the most important stage of the sales funnel is retention, where we're able to really build that community and keep people engaged with our brands. But one of the things that we have found is very helpful as marketers is to reframe how we think about a sales funnel and stop thinking about it so selfishly. So I know for us that it's our sales funnel, but for our customers, it's a buying journey. And what we like to do is basically take that sales funnel, flip it on its side, and map our customer's buying journey. And when you think about consumer behavior and customer buying journeys, you're able to put yourself in your shoes of your customers and your clients, and it's going to give you way better insight of how to craft messaging that is going to resonate with them. So again, for today, we're going to keep it pretty simple: who, what, and where. And I'm also going to break in the buying journey into 4 simple stages as well: brand awareness, consideration, decision, and again, my favorite, retention. And what I'm going to try to articulate here is how important nuanced messaging is based on the stages of the buying cycle that your customers are. Before my presentation started, I was actually reading the facts that were popping up on the screen here. And one of them was that personalized calls to action increased conversion rates by 46%, which I thought was incredibly powerful. And we've kind of talked about this idea that consumer behavior has evolved so rapidly. And I think that as marketers and as brands, we just have to understand that we are dealing with an incredibly savvy customer now, an incredibly savvy consumer. And they expect personalization, they expect customization, and they expect us to meet them where they are. So gone are the days when we can produce an amazing 30-second TV commercial, put it out there, and talk to this broad audience with broad basic messaging and watch the sales fly in. Instead, we've got to be very intentional about crafting our messaging specific to where people are in their buying journey. So the first stage of the buying journey is brand awareness. Your objective here is to make your prospects aware of the challenges or the opportunities that you can help with. this is a great opportunity to do that brand list and the general brand awareness type campaigns. A strategy I would recommend here is a whole lot of short and engaging videos highlighting the problems or the opportunities. At the office, I talk oftentimes about how in marketing, we sort of have two options in terms of paths that we can take to help businesses grow. Option number one is that we can capitalize on existing demand, meaning we can make sure that we're found for people that are looking for the products or the services that we offer. Path number two, though, is that we can create demand. And that's where brand awareness is so powerful, because if we're aware of a problem that we can solve, a pain point that people are dealing with, or other things like that, we can position our brand to bring light to the problem that we solve, which is actually a really powerful tool because it's going to create new demand, and we can sort of control the narrative and drive people down that path. Obviously, it's important that we're found for existing demand too, and that'd be a whole nother conversation on PPC and SEO and things like that. The second stage is the consideration stage. So we've got our audience, we have built brand awareness, we've got them aware of us, we've got them aware of the problem that we solve, and now they're starting to think. They're starting their buying journey. They're probably going to be looking at competitors, they're going to be looking at other options. Depending on your industry, they might be looking at ways for them to solve their problem themselves, whatever it might be. This is a very important moment, and we're going to dive here in at the end of the presentation about kind of the three objectives that you have with social media marketing: educate, entertain, or inspire. At this stage, I really want everybody to focus on education. You're wanting to position yourself as an authority in that space. This is also a very critical moment in the buying journey where we need our prospects to trust us. And the best way to build trust is to educate and add real value, because they've already become aware of the problem that we solve. Now we need to give them tools. And it might feel a little counterintuitive because it might feel like you're giving away the recipe or, sharing your secret sauce. And I say all the time that feel free to share the recipe because the cake still won't taste the same. So don't hesitate at all to give more information than you think is needed. Some ideas here would be case studies, how-to guides, product information, and steps and strategies for your customers or your prospects to solve the problem themselves. Apologize, I have to sip on my water. So we've talked about those three main pillars, right? Who are we talking to? What are we telling them? And what platform are we communicating with them through? Our first audience is brand awareness. Those are the people that at the top of our funnel. Second is consideration. And then the third is the decision phase. So this is now where it's our opportunity to position ourselves as the ideal solution provider. We've brought awareness to the problems that we solve. We've built trust through education. And now it's time for us to sell a little bit. Later on, I talk about how we never want to sell on social media. The only exception to that is through our targeted ads with people that are in our decision phase. But it's also a great way to focus on testimonials, demonstrating your brand's capabilities, case studies, things like that, because you're building that demand along the way. And when it's at the decision point, it is very, very important that we position ourselves as the leader that they're going to ultimately choose. After the decision phase, we have retention. Your objective here is you want to maintain engagement with loyalty post-purchase. We've worked very hard to get a new customer. Now we got to keep them. We're going to talk a little bit about how powerful online communities are and how our best resources are people that are fans of our brands. And so what's great about this stage of the buying cycle is it's a lot of the same content that we utilize at the brand awareness stage. We get to be fun, we get to be engaging, we get to play with, social media trends and short form vertical video content and things like that. We again want to evoke emotion and add value. And what I want everybody to take away from that is that, and we're going to dive into the targeting and how we get this audience to come to life here in a little bit, but that we've got really different audiences based on where they are in their buying journey. And if you're telling somebody at the awareness stage, if you're selling to them, which should be at the decision stage, you're not going to have nearly as effective of conversion rates and effective as campaigns as when you really think through where people are. And I know that it's not a perfect science, but my advice to everybody is to put yourself in the shoes of your customers and think about their online behavior. Think about how you can talk to them in a meaningful way that's going to resonate, because you have a different audience with different messaging, and that's going to be giving them the information that they need. And if we're intentional about that, that's where things can get super, super powerful. But how do we figure out who's in what stages of their buying cycle? Luckily for us, marketers in 2024, we have an abundance of targeting capabilities. And so we're able to, through online behaviors and signals, figure out where people are in their buying journey. So what I want to talk about now is diving a little bit deeper into that who category of our who, what, and where, and how do we identify the audiences that are in those categories of their buying journey. So the first one, brand awareness. This is going to be your most broad, your largest audience size, and your, what I'm going to call is kind of standard targeting. We're doing behavioral elements, geographic targeting, all of your standard kind of targeting elements. It's also a great opportunity to utilize a lookalike audience. So if you guys have a CRM or customer lists or things like that, you can input that into Meta and generate a lookalike audience. But the point here is that this is broad. This is our widest net that we're going to be casting, and then we'll be able to guide people through their buying journey after that. So once we've created our brand awareness audience and we've shared brand awareness type content with them, like we had just talked about, anybody then that interacts with that first batch of content automatically moves themselves into the consideration phase. So we need to pay attention to those signals, right? So we've got this large audience that we know are probably going to be in the market for the service or the product that we offer. If they've engaged, so if they've clicked on our video, if they've clicked through to our website, if they've commented, if they've shared, if they've interacted with our social content, you can actually then create custom audiences based on people from your brand awareness audience and give them different messaging because of the way they've interacted with our initial messaging. And this is where things start to get really fun, because you're able to sort of craft your messaging and intentionally bring them down your funnel. Further from there, we can segment even further, and people that we know are in the decision phase. This is going to be people that have gone to your website and added products to your carts. Or if you're a service industry, people that have gone and filled out your lead form fill, or things like that, or contacted you through your contact page. It's again, that next level of intention that they've shown you through their online behavior. And if we pay attention to those, once again, we're able to craft our messaging that's going to resonate with them. And then the fourth stage, retention. Again, my favorite stage. This is where we get to repurpose a lot of our brand awareness type content. We want to be engaging. This is where we can start to do things like newsletter signups, rewards programs, gathering customer testimonials, and things like that. The idea here is that we want to build a community and we want to keep the people engaged with our brand that have gone through their buying cycle with us. So let's talk about best practices. We've talked about who our audience is and how important it is that we understand that our audience varies based on the stages of their buying cycle. We've talked about what we're telling them, and we've talked about the fact that our messaging has to be curated to speak specifically to their stages of the buying cycle. And now we talk about where and how on social media and through advertising. 90% of consumers say that video helps them make a purchasing decision and gives them more confidence in online purchases. We're going to talk a little bit later on about how important product videos are on e-commerce websites, but people, again, are desperate for confidence, and that consumer behavior has evolved to the point now where we don't walk into stores nearly as frequently as we used to and hold and feel things. Video is so important because you can build that trust and build that credibility with people. So how do we create effective videos? I'm sure everybody has heard the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid. We like to reuse that now and say, keep it super short. We learned yesterday that I think humans now have attention spans that are shorter than goldfish, is what I heard. So we need to be aware of that. And my advice would be the shorter, the better. I would never put out video content that's longer than 60 seconds. If your message needs to be longer than 60 seconds, there's a time and a place for that in YouTube and LinkedIn, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But as it relates to advertisements and social media ads, the shorter the better. If you can get your messaging in 6 seconds, that's where I would recommend. 15 would be the next jump from there, and then 30. You also want to be in line with channel best practices. So if you're advertising on YouTube or TV or social media or whatever it might be aware that there's best practices for all of those different platforms, but the messaging can stay the same. And that's what's important to recognize, is that we're talking to the audience that's at the specific stage of their journey. We've got messaging that's specific to them. We can just reformat that messaging based on the platform that they're on. We had a client that manufactures cabinetry, and they've been running social media ads with us for a couple of years now. And we've been running your very standard carousel and graphic-driven social media ads. And all we did was change their ad creative to vertical format video, short vertical format video, and their conversion rates went up 300%. We didn't change targeting. We didn't change calls to action. We changed nothing other than we went from static ad creative to vertical format video. And that'd be an example of being in line with channel best practices. Obviously, focus on strong visuals. We have to grab attention quickly. Attention spans are tiny, like we had talked about. You also want to incorporate clear calls to action. I again want to reiterate how fascinating I thought it was that conversion rates have gone up 46 or 48% when there's personalized calls to action. So think about that. And there's ways that you can personalize things that aren't going to overcomplicate it. If you've got a specific geographic market, add that term into your call to action. Denver-based marketers, have you ever considered, or whatever it might be. There's these little tweaks that you can do that make your messaging feel so much more personalized, and that will contribute to your clear calls to action. You also want to tap into current trends and increase relatability and shareability. People now are so savvy with forced ads, forced narratives. So be authentic, but use trends when they are relevant to you or your business or your brand. Don't jump on trends though if they're not on brand. We could do a whole presentation about that. And then the other thing is recognize consumer behavior. So one of the things that we have found to be very powerful is most of the time when people are viewing video content on social platforms, whether it's organic or paid, it's vertical, it's on a mobile device, and it's muted. Almost never do people have volume on social channels. So you've got to utilize things like graphics and closed captions and titles and things like that. Alternatively, people are watching content on YouTube or LinkedIn. It's typically horizontal. It's typically with volume on, and you can get away with much longer content. And so what you want to do is not totally overwhelm yourself and have to make new content for all of the different channels. Instead, what you can do is shoot the same content, but optimize it for different channels. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but we're filming my presentation right now. And what we'll do is we'll have a long format video that gets published to YouTube and that we can share that way. We'll probably also write a blog post about it and embed it in our blog post, which we'll talk about in the SEO section. But then we'll crop this into short vertical format social shorts. And all we're going to do is crop it vertical, shorten it, and add captions. So it's one piece of content that we're able to repurpose and optimize in multiple different ways, so we're not working to death all the time. Horizontal versus vertical. Short vertical video content is definitely the leader right now in video. I'm almost tempted to tell you guys to shoot vertical first. I don't know that we're quite there yet, because I do think that there's some horizontal and long form video applications, but people are consuming video on their mobile phones. In fact, 75% of video viewing occurs on a mobile device. And if you think about the earlier stat that 83% of all online data is people consuming video, all web traffic, 83% of it is video consumption. 75% of that happens on smartphones. So again, being aware of your customers and where they are, and they're watching vertical format video on their mobile devices. It also caters to decreasing attention spans. And then I think there's algorithmic favorability. We've seen vertical format video outperform any other creative on our social ads by a very significant margin. I think there's two factors that play into that. One is algorithmic. We all know how Meta and Instagram and Facebook and these other platforms are pushing Reels. So I think that when we're following those best practices with our ads, we get some algorithmic bump. But the other one is just consumer behavior. It's less intrusive. It feels less disruptive to, the scrolling and the swiping. When you swipe from one reel to a vertical video ad, it's not going to interrupt the attention like a vertical one or a horizontal one rather would disrupt. You also want to prioritize the different platforms. So think about your customers, think about where they're spending their time. And then there's also great opportunities to include interactive elements where you can swipe up, pull down, comment. We've also had a lot of great results by putting products through Instagram and Facebook shopping into our video content so that people can actually click on the creative, see the product, and engage with it from there. So one of the things too, and I took this out of the presentation, but I want to let everybody know, we've got some handouts on our booth outside about how to set up YouTube analytic tracking through GA4. It's pretty granular and in the weeds, but if anybody's interested with it, pop by our booth and I'll give you the handout for instructions for how to set it up. Because here in a little bit, we're going to talk about some of the important information that you can get from that. So if you don't know how to set that up, come and see us and we'd be happy to help with it. But luckily now through things like GA4, YouTube tracking and things like that, we're able to get some insights that are way deeper than our standard kind of what I'm going to call vanity metrics. I'm sure you've all seen the marketing report that says, hey, here's our impressions, here was our click-through rate, here's your invoice. Well, we want to say, okay, did it actually work? Did we get people engaged? And let's look way beyond just the impressions and the click-through rates. And now we get to start to pay attention to things like watch time and completion rates and engagement rates. When did people stop watching the content? Did they finish the whole thing? Did they share it with their friends? Did they like it? Did they comment on it? And if we pay close attention to that, it is so much more insightful and so much more powerful than just knowing if people clicked. We're also able to start to see behavioral insights. There's a tool that we utilize called Hotjar. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Hotjar or not, but it's an awesome tool because what it does is it does screen recordings of real sessions on your websites. We use it for our clients. If you guys are an agency, I'd recommend looking into it. If you work for a brand, you definitely should look into it for your own reporting and optimization. But what you can do is see people's behavior after you've driven traffic to the site. So we've got our audience dialed. We know who we're talking to. We've got our messaging dialed. So they clicked through and they visited our website. Now is the rest of it cohesive? And you can tell that by watching people's behavior after they visited your website. And it's a really fun tool because you can literally watch their session, watch their engagement, and you can see if they clicked on the video, if they watched the whole thing, if they exited out of it. Pay attention to as people are browsing through your site. And if you're selling a service or if you're selling a product, there's some amazing information out there and some amazing signals if we just listen. The other thing is it's important to track all of our efforts. So definitely going to recommend UTM links for all of your videos, organic content on socials, your YouTube ads, your social media ads. If you're embedding video in your emails, website traffic, programmatic, I mean, you name it, put UTM links on them so that you can track the traffic to the website and the performance of those creatives. So this is what I was talking about. If you guys want some insight into how to set up YouTube video tracking with GA4, we've got those handouts on our booth and would be happy to help with you guys. But what's great about it is that it gives us some more detailed viewer insights. So we can learn not just who watched our videos, but how did they interact with them? And did it help influence a purchasing decision? It also then gives us insight as marketers to optimize our content. So if we're paying attention to what our customers are doing, and let's say we have a 2-minute product demo video on there, and they're watching a minute of it, or 45 seconds of it, or whatever it might be, we now can say, hey, we've got to make our product demo videos 45 seconds. We've got to shorten them. Our customers are telling us that they want more concise messaging, and we need to listen to those signals so that we can adapt. And what happens is if we pay attention to what our customers are telling us, and then we adapt as marketers, we enhance their experience. And then the cycle escalates. And it's such a powerful thing for everybody to see is when we're paying attention to what people want and we're delivering them what they want, then everybody wins. It also helps us make data-driven decisions. I'm a believer that we want to speculate as less as possible. We live in a world where there's plenty of unknowns, and as much data and as much information as we can have to make better decisions, obviously want to encourage everybody to do that. So it's really cool too, when you've got your YouTube video tracking and GA4, you can also create segments. So for example, you could differentiate between users who watched a video and those who didn't, and then you could compare conversion rates. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to kind of guess, test, and revise and see, how did video on our website influence the purchase decision? How did it influence the funnel? If we had it embedded in our emails, how did that influence click-through rates and things like that? And then you're also going to be able to check out engagement metrics. So things like play rates, which is going to measure the percentage of users who have started playing a video. It's also going to tell you your completion rate, track the percentage of users who watched it all the way to the end, and then your average engagement time, which again is going to give you insight. And we don't have time to dive all the way into it today, but the idea would be it becomes formulaic. You know your impressions, you know your clicks, you know your play rate, your completion rate, and your engagement rate, and you can know how many impressions you need to lead to a conversion. And then it's just a math equation at that point to get your return on investment. So let's talk a little bit about social media, organic efforts, retention, and my favorite phase in the buying journey, which is keeping people a part of our community. Let this sink in for a minute. Social video generates 1,200% more shares than text and image combined. 1,200% more shareable content if it's video. So we talked about how important short form video content is, and there's obviously best practices with TikTok and Instagram and Meta and things like that and Reels. But I also believe that there's about to be a resurgence in long form video content. Depending on your industry and depending on how complicated the business that you work in is, I think we have a great opportunity to actually captivate an audience with more longer format video content. You just have to be aware of where you're publishing it. We're finding results from longer form video content on YouTube and LinkedIn. We talked about how you want to optimize for platform specific features. This is going to apply to marketing as well as it does with advertising. If anybody sat in on the Google presentation yesterday, they showed us some really cool tools about how you can use AI to crop your horizontal video to vertical, and it'll also trim it for you. And then again, to reiterate, how much people are not using volume when they're on social media. So you want to be aware of that and optimize for sound-free playing. Another huge opportunity that I think businesses are missing out on is user-generated content. One of the themes is that we want to build a community and we want to create engagement with our customers and our potential clients. And when somebody tags you or mentions you in their story, they're actively asking you to be part of their community. Utilize it, leverage it. It's going to be way more powerful than any produced content we could come up with, any campaigns we can come up with. That user trust and that idea that people like us do things like this, so powerful. So don't overlook user-generated content. And when it comes to organic social media marketing, SEO, and things like that, to reiterate about this idea that we want to be aware of who we're talking to, what we're telling them, and where we're telling it. Nobody goes on social media anymore to be sold to. So stop selling. Don't ever make another salesy organic post ever again. Instead, start storytelling. Start adding value. And you have three options. You can educate, you can entertain, or you can inspire. One of the things that we do at Ascent Digital is every Monday we post a Motivational Monday post, and it has nothing to do with digital marketing ever. It's just motivating for life, and they're some of our best performing social posts and pieces of content. The other thing I want to remind everybody is that authenticity is disruptive. So we've talked about how there's this bombardment with content now and things like AI, and we're living in such this content saturated world. Stop trying to be perfect. Be authentic. Be who you actually are, because who you are is who your customers need. And if you're willing to be authentic, I think that it's actually disruptive. So stop worrying about the filters and jumping on the trends that aren't on brand or anything like that. If it's going to add value for your audience or you think that it might, do it. Try it. And what's great about social media marketing and this influx of content that we're dealing with AI is that the worst case scenario is it doesn't work and nobody sees it. So there's literally no risk. It's only upside if we put out content that's authentic. It's scary, it's vulnerable, but our customers are begging for it. People are desperate for real connections with real brands and to humanize our brands and build that community that we've talked about. Engagement equals success. We work with brands all the time that want to grow their social media engagement. Yet they're posting 3 times a week, setting it and forgetting it, walking away and not thinking about it. If we're going to build an online community, if we're going to meet our customers where they are, if we're going to deliver them messaging that is important to where they are in their buying cycle, we have to engage. One of the things I think about is how we want to take a real life community and portray that in the digital world. My personal definition of a community is active participation amongst all members. If you think about a real community, we're all participating, we're all working together, we're all contributing. Same thing happens with your social efforts and your online community. It's no longer enough to just put content out there, set it and forget it and leave it. You actually have to engage. But it's also very important that we pay attention to the signals our customers are giving us. If they're engaging with content, that means it's resonating. That means that we should do more of that. It also means that we need to engage back and respond to the comments and things like that. If we put content out there that doesn't get engagement, there's no likes, there's no shares, there's no comments, people aren't putting it on their story or whatever it might be, that's also a signal. That's also a message that we need to listen to and probably do less of that. So when it comes to the organic efforts, what I would encourage you guys to do is think that engagement is now your new success metric. We're not worried about conversion rates. We're not worried about return on investment or the funnel or the buying journey or anything like that when it comes to the organic efforts. Instead, we're looking for engagement. Video is also an incredibly powerful SEO tool. I'm sure it's not news to anybody in here that Google also owns YouTube. And as we learned yesterday, Google loves Google. So anything we can do to play nice with Google, obviously we should. 94% of the video results on Google's first page come from YouTube. I'm sure that's not shocking to anybody. I'm actually surprised it's that low. I would have assumed it was 100% that comes from YouTube. But obviously it's an important tool. Also, an important takeaway, if you guys do not have video on your website, you need to get video on your website yesterday. Websites with video are 53 times more likely to rank on the first page of Google. And again, if we think about the fact that video is actually powerful, we're now talking to 2 audiences. We've got Google and the search engine algorithm audience, and we've got our human audience. And if we can play in both of those worlds, it's obviously a powerful moment. Video, though, needs to be treated just like any SEO tactic, any SEO strategy. So I would assume that most of the people in here are familiar with on-site optimization and keyword research with your content and your blogs and things like that. Apply the exact same logic to video. So you want to make sure that you do your keyword research. Identify relevant keywords. Use tools like Google's Keyword Planner, YouTube's Search Suggest feature, and then optimize the titles, the descriptions, keywords, and things like that in your video content. You also need to make sure that it's high quality, though. You can't just pump out content and expect to get results. We've talked about how savvy customers are getting now and this influx of content. It's got to be high quality. Google's always updating their algorithm to be in line with what the human audience actually wants, and they can tell if it's quality. They can tell if it's actually going to add value. You also want to optimize your metadata with your videos. So tag and categorize, make sure to place the video in the correct category, and then have transcripts and closed captions. When we first started Ascent Digital, one of our goals was to rank #1 organically for marketing and advertising agencies, obviously, right? We all want to be #1 on Google. So when we started, my business partner, Brittany, would write a blog every week, and I would make a video about that same topic. And then what we would do is we would use that blog as the description on the video. We would embed the video to the blog page, and then we would share all of that to our social channels. And within 6 months, we went from a brand new business that didn't exist at all online to the first organic result in our geographic area. And it just shows you the power of how you can intertwine video and YouTube and content on your website and things like that. Again, you want to pay attention to engagement metrics. So watch time and focus on content that keeps viewers watching longer, pay attention to likes, comments, shares, things like that. And then we talked about backlinks and embeds. I'm sure there's somebody in here that's way savvier than I am at SEO, but you guys know that site speed matters when it comes to ranking and how Google ranks your site. So if you embed a YouTube video on your video instead of actually uploading a video to your website, you're going to have a faster website and you're going to build the trust with Google. And then obviously your technical SEO, so sitemaps, and make sure that your video is submitted to those things and search engines and things like that. Product videos outperform product imagery all of the time. So if you're an e-commerce brand or you're selling any sort of a product, even if they can't purchase it online, I'm going to highly encourage you guys to make product-specific videos that you can showcase on your website. We talked earlier about how videos build people's confidence and trust in products when they're having to make decisions online, and all they have is the information that you give them. They can't read your mind. They can't see how it works. And again, video gives us an opportunity to show how it can feel. So my assumption would be that you believe in the product or the service that you're selling, and you're doing so because it can impact people, because it can add value to people's lives, whatever it might be. Video is such a powerful way to show them that. And you'll build confidence with your customers when they get to watch a video instead of just look at imagery. Videos on the homepage are one of the best engagement metrics. It keeps people locked in to your website. So I'm sure when you guys are looking at KPIs, you look at bounce rates. And when you have a click through and then people bounce right away on your website, a great way to impact your bounce rate is to embed video on your homepage. So people get to the website and then there's something for them to engage with, something for them to watch. And then lastly, agility and adaptability. My guess would be that the world of video marketing has changed since I started talking 45 minutes ago. And so everything I just said is irrelevant. And I was actually going to start with a joke about AI that we can all just take the time back to work on our resumes and, not worry about it anymore. But jokes aside, you have to just recognize that we as marketers, especially in the modern world and in 2024, adaptation and agility and the willingness to change is just going to be a way of life from now on. And so embrace change. Don't be afraid to try the new thing. Don't be afraid to try your first vertical video or embedding it on YouTube or whatever it might be. And there's going to be a new thing tomorrow. There's going to be a new thing next week. Be willing to try. Be willing to change and adapt because it's coming, whether we're ready for it or not. So you want to make sure that your strategies are flexible. But what I want to make sure everybody leaves here remembering is that humans buy from humans. And so while the tactic might change, the platform might change, the best practices might change. We might have vertical, we might have horizontal, we might have captions, it might be AI generated, whatever. But the messaging is just as important as it's ever been, and that will not change. We're always going to be talking to a real audience. And so while we need to adapt to rapid changes in the digital landscape, don't forget how important your messaging is and that it comes from a place of authenticity and that you're meeting your customers where they are in their buying journey. And then stay ahead of trends. Pay attention to things that are working. Don't stop learning. The fact that everybody's here is a good indicator of that we're all learning new things. I've learned a ton the last few days. And yeah, be ready to keep changing. I know for sure that video is one of the most powerful ways to convey messages to our customers. I know that it's what our customers want. It's what people are begging for in terms of messaging. I do think, though, it's going to continue to evolve. So get used to it.